Does this sound familiar at all? You start out full of motivation for your new business plan, your new content creation, your gym plan, your prospecting plan, and a few weeks later, you've completely fallen off and lost the consistency? If yes, hang around. You're going to love this video. I'm Ben Spangle, founder of Next Level You, and I help achievers rewire their mind for all new levels of success, prosperity, and happiness. Looking forward to spending our time together today. Today, I want to talk to you about the consistency gap, or in many people's lives, the inconsistency gap. In other words, we know we have goals, right? You're watching this for a reason. I know you've got goals in your business, your career life, probably your health and fitness, probably your family, your financial. And we know we got things that we want. We even know what we could or should be doing, but then often the consistency or inconsistency gap shows up here, where I'm not taking the steps that I know that I want to, or I start out strong for a week, 2 weeks, 3, 4, only to fall back to where I was. And you've probably heard in the personal development industry, they'll say it takes 21 days to build a habit. And I don't know if you ever experienced that, but that is total bull. You know what? It does not take 21 days to build a habit. Otherwise, many of us would have built lots of those habits a long freaking time ago. So what does this look like? You know, it kind of shows up in a lot of ways, right? Let's say, New Year's is probably the best time to look at this because people all over are setting new goals for their life. You know, the gym would be a great one. I know when I go to my gym on January 2nd or January 3rd, the gym is packed. And that first 2 or 3 weeks, it is packed. All of these people began with the best of intentions to commit to their health and fitness, that this year was going to be different. But then 3 weeks later, the gym is no longer packed and it's back to its regular capacity of people. So what's going on for people? Or you decide, I'm going to create this amazing content plan. I'm going to get serious about my social. I'm going to start posting regularly. And maybe you do for a few weeks only to fall off. Or you decide, this is the time that I'm going to make a move in my business. You know, I'm going to blow this thing. I remember building my insurance business at the time. And so many times I would get so excited about it. I'd come up with this new amazing plan. I'm going to talk to this many people a day. And I would usually do it for a couple, 2, 3 weeks and then fall off. And this happened for me in my life until I really began to understand the true root cause and, more importantly, what to actually do about it. Another way, by the way, this could be showing up in your life. Perhaps you're more of, you're kind of subject to the shiny object syndrome. In other words, you're making a plan in your business and that sounds like a good idea. So you start doing it this way for a little bit, but then somebody else comes along and says, that sounds like a good idea. So now you're following this new strategy. And then somebody comes over here and they say, that sounds like a good idea. And you start following and you're constantly chasing strategy after strategy rather than sticking to one that would probably work. Sometimes people think, well, yeah, it's just a discipline issue. I just don't have enough discipline or I'm not as disciplined as those really successful people. And what I found is it's a much deeper issue than just discipline. It is not just a discipline or willpower thing. There's something much deeper beyond it. The best way to understand this is we have to understand that by the time you're 35, so if you're over 35 and watching this, this has happened in your life. If you're under 35, it's in the process of happening, and you're probably still pretty close to what I'm about to share with you. By the time you are 35, 95% of who you are is a set of automatic, habitual, subconscious programs. The way that you think, the way that you feel, the way that you act, what you're attracting in your life, all of these things are happening primarily on a subconscious level. When we don't understand this, we get frustrated with ourselves. We feel guilty about what we didn't do when we knew we wanted to do it. And we get mad at ourselves and we berate ourselves. And all this does is it just reinforces this negative self-image inside of our subconscious. Excuse me. And so what ends up happening is a good way for you to view this is your subconscious being like a thermostat. I live in Canada. In Canada, we operate on Celsius, as does most of the world, actually. And so we keep our home at 20.5 degrees Celsius. Now, in the wintertime, at the time of this recording, it's about -10 outside where I live. And so in the wintertime, what happens in our home is because we keep it at 20.5, anytime the temperature drops below 20.5, the furnace turns on to heat up the home. In the summertime, anytime the home gets above 20.5, it kicks the air conditioners on to cool off the home. Your subconscious works in the exact same way. So here you are, you're deciding that I want to go make a big move in my business, right? I'm going to go and prospect more people than I've ever prospected in the next 90 days. I'm going to be more consistent in my content rhythm. I'm going to do X, 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 and X. I'm going to go to the gym every day, whatever it might be. You can do it temporarily with conscious willpower. The problem is that is limited and fleeting. Once your willpower or your conscious mind's out of the way, the subconscious snaps right back in and turns the furnace on, or the air conditioner, if you will, to bring you back to your regular temperature, to your 20.5 in this analogy. So let's say you post very inconsistently right now, or you prospect inconsistently, or your contacts are over here and over there, or your workouts are a little bit here, good for 3 weeks and not. That's part of the program. And the solution is to rewrite the program, to rewire the program. So I'm going to talk to you a bit about it. And what do we actually do? How do we begin to rewire our mind for consistency? Because it's not that there's these people out there that have achieved the success that you want. It's not that they're so magical and they have access to something that you don't have. We all have access to the same infinite and universal power. You, me, the billionaires, the people with the best body. I mean, we all have access to it. Nobody has access to anything different that way. They may have been programmed differently. They may have been exposed to different ideas environmentally, yes. But today, especially because of the internet, I mean, we have access to this information. So you can change, and you can change forever. You can create lasting changes in your life. So the first tip I want to give to you around consistency or breaking the pattern of inconsistency is awareness. We have to start to pay attention to when this is showing up in our life. So let's say you decided you're going to start a new workout routine, or you're going to start your new business plan. And you start your new business plan and you're a few days in, you're making the calls you want to, you're doing the content posts, whatever it might be. And then all of a sudden you notice, and this is where awareness comes in, but you notice maybe there's a feeling of resistance where I don't want to. And then the awareness comes in to notice the feeling, but then notice the thoughts. Oh, I'll skip it today. One day's not such a big deal. You know, I can make up for it tomorrow. And we want to pay attention to these because these are your subconscious blocks. This is your subconscious mind trying to bring you back to 20.5 degrees. When we begin to pay attention to the inner dialogue, both the feeling and then the inner dialogue where the resistance is, we now put ourselves in the position of choice. When I'm not aware, I just fall back to the program. But when I raise my awareness, I become more conscious rather than unconscious. I put myself in a position to change the program. Once you catch it, now you have an opportunity to choose to think something new. So let's say your mind says to you, your subconscious goes, oh, just delay it today. Don't worry about it. You can make more calls tomorrow. You can make up for it next week, or I'll get back on track tomorrow. Or, hey, this is never going to work out for you. You've tried it so many times. When's it going to work? On and on and on. All the mental chatter that mind can do at times. Begin to replace it with a new style of thinking. And many teachers will teach you the power of affirmations, where they'll say, no, I'm capable. I can do this. I am. And the affirmations are great when you believe them. They're not very effective when you don't believe them. So what could we use instead of an affirmation? I like affirmations. I use them lots in my life. What I found, though, is many people, they don't work well for them because they really don't believe them. And so I could just tell you, you have to believe in your affirmation, but then you think, how the hell am I going to do that? So rather than that, we're going to switch an affirmation for a question. Questions are powerful because they hook the mind. They require the mind to give it an answer. So when you catch this pattern of drifting off, where I'm not going to do that thing, I'm going to fall off the gym or whatever, I'll skip it today. It's not a big deal. You could ask a question like, what would my most powerful self do in this moment? How would my most successful self handle this? If I was the most consistent version of me, what would I do in this situation? And you could use a question or a variation of this to literally ask your mind, and then it'll give you an answer. So I'm going to give you a real life example. I just had picked up my car from the shop, and they had done a little detail on it and organized it and cleaned it. And my car was a little bit messy when I brought it there. And so I got home and there was a package, the receipts and everything from the shop on the chair, and I had my hands full. And so I'm going into my house, I'm bringing the stuff into my home, and I saw the receipt, and the thought came up, I'll get that another time. I'll do that tomorrow. And I'm working on my life being more organized that way. So I caught the thought, awareness. I began to replace it with a question. I said, what would my most organized self do? And I waited for he would go back and get it. So, and once I had that answer, that's exactly what I went back and did. So you're going to ask the question and then do the thing that version of you would do. When you do this, you begin to create momentum. You begin to create momentum in your mind, shifting your patterns, becoming more aware, and you begin small levels of habit stacking of choosing new behaviors. And it might be small like that, where I just grab the receipt. It might be small like that, where you go do the workout instead. But now that you did the workout, you're probably more likely to eat a little bit better later in the day. And we begin to stack these wins. The other thing that I can never recommend enough, and if you really want to change your life, it is an absolute must, in my opinion. This is the single best way to begin reprogramming your life, is a daily meditation practice, specifically with audios that are designed to access your subconscious mind. All meditation is wonderful. I'm a big fan of any kind of meditation. And I love the ones that help us target specific areas we're trying to create in our life. So I definitely get yourself involved in that. I want to kind of wrap up with sharing with you how this played out for me in my life. I give you a recent example of where I'm changing, but I want to share an example of where I dramatically changed my life. I am 38 years old at the time of this recording. And by the time I was 35, I had built a great track record of being incredibly inconsistent in my exercise and fitness routine. I had a small period when I was probably 18 where I worked out for about maybe 6 months straight. That was probably the longest I ever worked out. And other than that, I would be on and off, sometimes off for 6 months, 9 months, a year, with sporadic workout here and there. Sometimes I'd be dialed in for maybe 2 months or 3 months only to fall off, sometimes a month to fall off. And literally this happened my entire adult life. And my programming was not set for health and fitness. Nobody really in my family was really into exercise or fitness. And that's not a knock. It's how it was. And so my programming was not really that way. So here I was at 35, and I was facing myself and being disappointed with my efforts. I would tell myself, this is the year I'd set my health and fitness goals for the year. This is the year I'd get in the best shape of my life. And sometimes I maybe did for a couple months, only to end up back to where I was. I kept going back to that 20.5 degrees. So I did what I'm telling you about. Number one, I began with a new idea of what I wanted. I began to catch those intrusive thoughts. I made a new plan. How would my healthiest self approach this? How would my most fit self? And then I began to take small steps that could help me towards it. So where I began in this habit stacking was starting very, very small. When I was 35, I hired a personal trainer, 1 workout a week. I committed to myself, I could do 1 a week. This was my habit. I was going to start stacking. I wasn't going to work out 5 days a week, not even 3, definitely not 7. I was going to go and do 1 day a week. And I did that for 6 months. I committed 6 months. And anytime, now hiring the trainer helped me because I had that forced time, but anytime the mind said, I don't know. I would, hey, what would my healthiest self do? How would I handle this? And I went for 6 months straight, and I built that habit of once a week. The results were actually really good, what occurred for me in that once a week. As I was doing that, I felt more inspired to be eating a bit better, to be taking better care of my sleep, to be drinking more water. And so these other elements began to come together. They began to stack. But it was the one discipline once a week. Then after 6 months, I moved to twice a week. And I did that for about another, I guess would have been a year almost. And now in my life, I work out 3 to 4 times a week. And it's very effortless because I rewired my mind and habits for success in that area. In other words, I did the work to rewire the inner thermostat setting. So now if I was to miss a week of working out, I'm immediately back in there because I had rewired that. I had changed the internal thermostat. You can do this in your life too. Another story I'll share with you is Christina. Christina's one of my clients that's come through some of our coaching programs. And she began a program, I guess 18 months ago, where she took one of these subconscious reprogramming audios and started with a 7-day challenge. We just did a 7-day challenge, but she decided that she was going to do it every day after that. She's done that for about 18 months. So it began with that. The second thing she began doing was, alongside her meditation, was journaling about her gratitude and what was important in her life. And I have to tell you, it is amazing to see what's occurred. In the last 18 months, from one subconscious shift, she quit her job that she'd been at for a long time, was doing well at her job, took the risk of starting her own business. She's in the home and auto insurance world, started that business, and within 13 months did over $3 million in premium in that business. Skyrocketed her commissions and income to over $500,000. Her relationship with her daughter's better than ever before. And she tells me these changes that she's made, these subconscious changes, have helped her through the coaching, has helped her create a life that she didn't even think possible, specifically, she says, as a single mom. So this stuff works. I know it works. So I hope that helps you with your consistency for the next 90 days, for the next year, for the rest of your life. So creating some real change in your life. And if you want some extra tips, if you haven't downloaded my Rewire Your Mind checklist, my reprogramming checklist, click the link below, get that checklist, and start incorporating some of these ideas into your day-to-day life. One too many days there. Anyways, great being with you. Have an amazing week, and I look forward to seeing you soon.